nostalgia.
Hello, I'm Spicy.
So you don't have.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, did you hear what's coming out this year?
No.
Jurassic Park. Again.
Wow.
Fantastic Four. Again.
Wow.
Poltergeist. Again.
Wow.
Cinderella. Again.
Wow.
Star Wars. Again.
Wow.
And movie giants Iron Man, Hulk, Captain America.
Okay, let's stop it right there.
All in the same movie. Hey, motherfucking goddamn.
Okay, so you're probably wondering why did I play that clip? Well, then I do love Doug. It does ask an interesting question, but here's the kicker. Now, all those movies there, surprisingly enough, all those movies there are coming out. This movie, this clip, as you'll probably already figured out, came out 10 years ago, and it's still relevant today. There's still going to be a Jurassic Park movie. There's going to be another Star Wars movie. I don't know when that's going to come out, but it's supposed to be another Avengers movie. But at any rate, it does ask the question, why is nothing original anymore? Now, I understand. Now, don't get me wrong. Yes, it's not unheard of before 2016. There had been a lot of reboots and remakes. Right now, I'm going to later I'm going to do a review on Transformers Prime. But again, that's another example of a movie that has been done again, and not movie, franchise has been done over and over and over again. But the thing is, why can't we make anything new? The thing is, one of the biggest complaints that we have is as much as our childhood has a price tag to it, yeah, most of it's about marketing. What marketing certain decades came out with. So we talk about the 70s had the leisure suits and the pet rock. Here we talk about the 80s had an explosion of toys, of cartoons selling us toys. But we had like Ninja Turtles, we had Transformers. The 90s, I don't know, Captain Planet. Okay, I can't think of a lot in the 90s. But anyway, the point is, each series, each of our social media or specifically our pop culture reference had an identity to it. After the year 2000, it's the same thing over and over again. Now, don't get me wrong, some of them did last the test of time. Something like anything from the DC universe to even Marvel. Those stuff came out in the 1930s and even 1960s. And yet for the way they did it, it's still pretty relevant. Something like, so I feel like it's more, not really a reboot, but even though there are different tellings of each of the characters' stories, I do feel like it's more of a continuation. The question being, why can't we come up with anything new anymore? Did we run out of story ideas? Yeah, when it comes down to it, as Doug pointed out earlier, we are telling the same 7 stories over and over again. It isn't in a different way, but that's the key, isn't in a different way. We talk about the ideas of Terminator that came out in 1984. It was talking about our fears of AI taking over, our fears of the Soviet Union. This is actually during the time where the two superpowers were the Soviet Union and the United States, and we always fear that each one is going to launch missiles and knock out the entire world. But mainly it was all idea, as James Cameron pointed out in Terminator 2, is his fears that, well, when it comes down to it, humanity's got so dehumanized that our soulless machine get past as human. Again, it has some great ideas. It was a new packaging, even though the moral of the story, it's been something that's been around for a long time. The question is, why can't we come up with any new ideas? Or for that matter, are we scared to come up with new ideas? I can understand that when it comes down to it, when it comes to making something, or whatever, it's a physical product or it's a TV show or a movie, it can be kind of scary because you're not sure if it's going to work out well. The more you think about it, Terminator, at least I talked about Terminator, was supposed to be a B movie. And in other words, you're supposed to watch it and forget that it existed. But for whatever reason, it kept going on. And more you think about it, how much stuff that came out in the 1980s that either you've forgotten even exists or don't care it exists. I understand coming out with new ideas can get scary. Because you don't know if it's going to work now or in the future or work out later. I'll talk about movies like Demolition Man, since I'm talking about people predicting the future. I didn't hate Demolition Man when it first came out, but I didn't love it either. years later, literally decades later, I'm not going to do the math because I don't want to feel old, I end up loving the movie. A lot of movies you end up loving, but then end up hating. And some you just really don't care anymore. And stuff you usually like, you just forget, like as I pointed out before. So the question is, why can't we come up with anything new? Is it fear that one day that we would try something and it's not going to work out? I remember there was a line, this is in the commentary for Back to the Future 1, where he said that you're better off taking all the money that you're going to use to make the movie and put it on one of the numbers in blackjack. In other words, you're better off gambling your money than actually in making money that way than you are actually making an actual movie. Like I said, we don't know what was going to happen to Back to the Future. We end up loving it so much that we took the joke too seriously when it said to be continued, and they said, oh, okay, well, 2 more movies, I guess. No, seriously, turns out that was a joke, the to be continued thing. Other ideas, like I said, as Doug pointed out, some people like the last John was familiar. We know what Jurassic Park is. We know what Terminators. We know what, I don't know, name a movie, Star Wars, I don't know. But here's the thing. Maybe not knowing something could also be a good thing too. A lot of times, for example, I do want to go to movies spoilers free as much as possible. For example, there was a movie, Good Boy. Okay, turns out I messed that up. I thought it was based on a comic book. It wasn't. It was a good dog. It was so I was thinking of. But the point is, I didn't know what to think of this movie or what going into it. It gripped me just enough to get me interested, talking about how this is a horror story based on a point of view from the dog. Now, I'm not a dog person, but I do like the idea, but I thought it was kind of intriguing. Like I said, it clocks in an hour and 13 minutes, so it doesn't take much of your time. Something like Weapons, for example. Again, I don't know anything about this movie. Of course, or the ideas. Yet I saw I saw just enough of it to get me interested in the story. Yet when I watched the movie itself, I thought it was interesting. What was another good movie? This is one movie called Searching. Again, it was an interesting, unique idea. The idea took like 99% of it took place on a computer screen. Not necessarily that one person, but several computer screens. And again, I didn't know what to make of it. The story gave me enough to get interested. The idea that a daughter's gone missing, and the father's questioning, maybe he doesn't know who his daughter really was. Again, that got me interested in the story enough to go watch the movie. So again, I understand why people would want to not come up with new ideas. It's scary because you don't know if it's going to work. Transformers, originally, believe it or not, this is actually, Dioclone was a failed Japanese toy line. Yeah, can you imagine that? Transformers was originally a failed toy line. It wasn't until, so again, it didn't work out, but again, Hasbro came along, gave it a story, backgrounds, the whole shebang, and then people started buying it. But again, Transformers was originally, Dioclone was originally a failed idea. Was it a bad idea? But it didn't work out for a while. I'm sure, I don't know, GoBots, I don't know. I never liked GoBots. Though ironically, Dioclone was actually a knockoff version of GoBots. So, I don't know. GoBots seem to work out, I guess. I don't know. But that's the idea. We can't come up with new ideas, and yeah, it is a risk. But that's part of life, is taking risks. We do things safe all the time. Maybe it would be successful, but in the end, no one's going to remember. People are always going to remember the original that came out first. When people think of Star Wars, they're going to think of something that came out in 1977 to 1990. Think of Terminator, they're not going to think of Dark Fate or Genesis and maybe a little bit of Salvation. You can't come up with new ideas if you give some a premise for people to get their attention. Will it work out? Maybe it won't. Maybe I'll have a co-filing. Or maybe be like, maybe it won't be popular now, but years along the line, it'll be popular later. But again, what are your thoughts on this? Why do you think there's no new ideas? Is it possible to come up with new ideas and people are just overthinking it? Again, put in a comment below, and I'd like to thank you for the 55 subscribers. Let's get me to 1,000 before the end of the year so I can do this for a living. And of course, happy Halloween. And also, I'm not sure how I'm going to do this. Give me some ideas, but I have a Patreon. I'm trying to do a Patreon channel, but it's a little bit hard to navigate. At any rate, as always, hope your day sucks a little less. Sure hope mine does. See you next video.